all you Irons. Hope you guys are keeping well in the lockdown. My favorite midfielder of all time is a tough one. I must say, because we haven't produced all that many flashy, outgoing, attacking midfielders. But I'd have to go with Mark Noble. I know he has a few of those games where you go, jeepers creepers, where is he? He goes hiding. He often has those games where it's just like, goodness gracious, another one of those games, and then the next game he'll come up with an absolute blinder. But I think to be a West Ham player for, what's it, over 12 years now, he often doesn't get the praise he deserves because he does do all the dirty work in the midfield. He has a good pass on him. He's a leader. He's been our captain. And he's a penalty taker of note. I'm not sure what his record is, but I know it's a really good one. So I think a lot of his work goes under the radar because it's often breaking up attacks. It's just getting stuck in. And I think quite a few of those players aren't in the Premiership anymore. I think because it's so flashy and quick that a lot of those players like Noble aren't in the Premier League. So to still have a player like that, I know he can do our head in at some points.
Hello guys, I've been asked to do my favourite midfielder at West Ham. Now I had two choices, decided on one. My first person I was going to nominate originally was Ronnie Boyce, Tigger Boyce. He was just a fantastic midfielder. Didn't stop running, morning, noon and night. He was just everywhere on the pitch, putting one of the greatest shifts of all time every time he played. And I was fortunate enough to see him in the 64 Cup final. So I had him. However, I must say that I've came to the conclusion that my favourite midfielder at West Ham is and was Trevor Brooking. So Trevor Brooking. I loved the way he played. He was an attacking midfielder. I loved his style of play. The ability to be able to take a ball and the ball would let the ball do the work, and then he would run into a position, pick the ball up, and then place mainly most magnificent passes. He was just a fantastic player. And the thing that most probably counted much to me was I was at the 1980 World Cup. The 1980 FA Cup against Arsenal. I didn't have a West Ham ticket. I just couldn't get one. But I was very lucky to know somebody who got me in the Arsenal end. Now I was in the Arsenal end there watching that game. Then to see Trevor Brooking head, which I very rarely saw him do, head the winning goal. I jumped. I could not do anything other than jump up. And it was just a fantastic feeling. However, I soon came down to earth when I realised where I was standing and all the guys that were around me were all Arsenal supporters. I managed to escape Wembley unharmed, other than perhaps I had a bit of fruit thrown at me, but luckily enough that was all, nothing more than that. So, wonderful footballer, played for England in exactly the same way. He came from the East End of London. He was born in Barking, not a stone's throw from where I was born in East Ham. So we were very, very close in those terms. He was a very, very clever guy off the pitch and on the pitch. He ended up being an accountant, and he's just an all-round brilliant guy and very, 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 very respectful. Never ever got into trouble on the pitch. Never really argued. Never disputed much in the way of decisions, and certainly used elegance on the pitch rather than roughness. So my favourite midfield player for West Ham would be Trevor Brooking.
My favourite West Ham midfielder. During my lifetime of watching the Hammers, we've seen so many fantastic midfield players play for us, the likes of Joe Cole, Trevor Sinclair, Frank Lampard when he first started, just a few that really made a mark. And for me, and this is going to be quite controversial, but it's Dimitri Payet. The season he gave us in our final year at the Boleyn Ground was one that I'll absolutely never forget for the rest of my life. The things he used to do, the goals he used to score, the skill. In that season, he was probably arguably one of the best players in the league that season alone, and he was playing for West Ham. So obviously it ended really, really horribly, and I think he kind of gave us a bit of a kick in the teeth, when he left the club. But that season for me stands out so much, more than any other season that I've ever watched West Ham play, and he was the catalyst in that season. And what he did in a West Ham shirt was just unbelievable. So yeah, my favourite West Ham midfielder is Dimitri Payet, because of that season, because of how he made me feel, because of the absolutely unbelievably outrageous things that he did on the football pitch. So yeah, my favourite West Ham midfielder, Dimitri Payet.
Yep, says again with my favourite West Ham midfielder. It's a very difficult choice with me, in my opinion, but I had to go with Joe Cole. Growing up, he was one of my favourite players in the West Ham shirt, other than Julian Dix. Just his ability, his ability and talent was just absolutely out of this world. Just how he was growing up, coming through the ranks, I should say. Just the amount of stories you'd hear about him, and then obviously my dad was telling me about, oh, look at this player, Joe Cole, he's going to be signing else one day. And then he broke into the West Ham team, and you just couldn't believe some of the stuff he was doing. He was just majestic on the ball, his dribbling was just immense. You could just tell that he was going to be something really, really special. Yeah, and he had I remember that weird hairstyle he had, when he had was it the red, was it the J he had on the back of his head? And it was red, I believe. Yeah, kind of a weird haircut, but yeah, he just wanted to do something different. But yeah, and him becoming captain at 21 as well, was probably a really, really good moment for him. And despite us going down in us getting relegated, he was Hammer of the Year, man. But unfortunately, he left. He went on to better things, won trophies, hit Chelsea, as much as I don't want to really go into about Chelsea, but he had to move on, just like other players. Can't really hold that against him too much. But yeah, man, he had a really good career. It's someone I really respect, man. I do respect him as a player. I respect him as a person. So but yeah, he's one of my favourite players, man.
Okay, I've been asked to go for the best West Ham midfielder over the years. When I first started supporting West Ham, we had the likes of Martin Peters, Ronnie Boyce in the midfield. Going through a little bit later on, we then had people like Dev, Brooking, Bonzo. In those 70s, going into the 80s and 90s, we had Monker, Bish. Well, we had some special midfielders. But I'm going to raise a couple of eyebrows, I think, and I'm going to go for a person who I believe got so little recognition in midfield, and that guy is Jeff Pike. I remember in the late 70s when we were struggling against relegation and no one was prepared to take penalties or anything, he would always step up. Yeah, he missed a couple. I remember in the one game at Upton Park when we were playing Man United, we had to win that game to stay up. He missed a penalty, but then he scored another one. And for me, just watching him, he epitomizes what West Ham is all about, that grittiness in midfield, never say die attitude. And he was the reason why so many other players were able to feed off him and score goals. So for me, midfielder of over the years, Jeff Pike.
My favourite ever West Ham midfielder would probably have to be, and this is going to be controversial, but Scott Parker. Basically because he kept the team running for about a good 3 years. He was midfield general, he was captain, didn't have the armband, but he played like he was captain, he controlled the team. He never gave up. When we needed him during the relegation battles, he stepped up to the mark and was the hero that we needed, really. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in 2010 because we did actually get relegated, but the previous season, he was just an absolute machine. He got plaudits by pundits and by fellow professionals and alike. And for me, I've always respected that out of him. Yeah, okay, he went to Spurs, but he had family that supported Spurs. His dad was always a Spurs fan, and I do get it. And when you've played as hard as you have for West Ham, for me, fair enough, mate. Go do what you want because you've earned it. Maybe not a lot of fans would agree with me on that, but yeah. So for me, it has to be Scott Parker.